Hi, this is Nigma, and welcome to part 2 of my Heroes Newerth tutorial. If you haven't seen part 1, I suggest you go watch that first. What I intend to do in this video is to cover the basics that I didn't have time to talk about in the first one, as well as go over some slightly more quote-unquote advanced tactics. And the things I'll be going over are kind of unrelated, so this might seem a little disjointed. First, I want to talk about neutral creeps. Neutral creeps are creeps that spawn in the two forests on each side of the map. On your mini-map, you can see neutral creep camps in the form of yellow, darker yellow, orange, and red dots. Yellow camps spawn the weakest creeps, and red camps spawn the strongest. There are pros and cons of fighting neutral creeps. The advantages lie in the fact that you gain all the gold from killing these creeps because you are the only one fighting them. Your enemy doesn't have vision over you, so you are less likely to be ganked. The cons are, of course, that you are taking all the damage. Because of this, most heroes tend to begin killing neutral creeps in the forest later in the game. However, there are certain heroes that can go in the forest and kill neutral creeps as early as level 1, instead of going to a lane. This is called jungling, and is mostly done by heroes that can either summon or convert creeps to fight for them. When converting neutral creeps, it's important to remember that most boss neutral creeps come with useful abilities or auras. Neutral creeps respawn every minute mark unless there is a hero or a ward in the way. Next, I want to talk about barracks. When teaming up and attacking the enemy base, also called pushing, your main focus is to destroy the enemy's ranged and melee barracks. Should your team, for example, destroy the enemy's melee barracks in middle lane, your own melee creeps in middle lane become much stronger, permanently. The same goes for the ranged barracks. Because of this, destroying barracks is extremely vital to winning the game. Should your team destroy all 6 barracks, all your creeps will become ridiculously strong, typically capable of winning the game on their own. Now, I want to talk about creep AI. Creeps are programmed to attack you when you right-click attack an enemy hero. Because of this, it's usually a better idea to move close to the enemy before you actually attack him. Consequently, using spells does not trigger creep aggro at all. In fact, if you have an auto-cast ability, but can cast each spell separately, you can attack the enemy hero repeatedly without drawing any creep aggro at all. Doing this is sometimes referred to as orb walking. Controlling your hero well is key to landing kills in Han. In addition to minimizing creep aggro, you should also be aware of one more thing when trying to catch enemy heroes: the fog. In this scenario, I right-click attack this hero and begin chasing him. After he runs up this ledge, my hero stops dead in his tracks and doesn't pursue him. This happens because you lose sight of the enemy hero when he enters the fog of war. A better tactic, which I nicknamed fog walking, involves manually moving your own hero up ledges, ensuring that your hero doesn't slow down at all. In fact, it's usually a good idea to never right-click an enemy hero unless you're actually in attack range. This brings me to my next point, map awareness. Keeping a very close eye on your minimap is quite possibly the best way to not die in Han. When looking at your minimap, you must ask yourself some questions. Where are the enemy heroes? Am I at risk of being ganked? The best way to predict a gank on you is to simply count the enemy heroes on your map. If you can see all 5, you're fine. If you can only see 3, you may be at risk of being double-teamed. If you can't see any at all, you should be extremely careful, and maybe even consider if the enemy team is fighting Kongor. The river is a great way of measuring how close you should be to the enemy's base at any given time. If there are 3 or more heroes missing from any given lane, you should probably not cross the river, especially not alone, as you are extremely vulnerable. Now I want to talk about something a little different: picking your hero. Contrary to popular belief, choosing your hero isn't a decision that only affects you. When picking your hero, you need to ask yourself some questions. First off, does my team actually need my hero? Since all heroes have a role, you must first assess if your role has already been covered. For example, you typically don't need 2 carry heroes on one team. So, if someone on your team has already picked a hero like Madman, picking a hero like Nighthound wouldn't really be a good investment, especially in a 3v3. There's a lot of words to describe hero roles: carry, support, disabler, initiator, to name some. You should communicate with your team what heroes you have available to you. You may even be able to swap with somebody to get a hero that you really want to play. Having a good hero makeup is extremely important in Han, and is quite possibly one of the most underestimated aspects of a team in pubs. You should also ask yourself if the hero you are picking is easily countered by a hero that the enemy has. While for the most part you can't directly counter a hero, certain heroes face extreme disadvantages against others. For example, Pestilence has an ability which keeps invisible units visible, so in that case, you would not want to pick heroes such as Scout or Nighthound, because they would be at a large disadvantage all game. Consequently, it's a good idea to pick your heroes when the timer is running low. This ensures that your enemy won't have enough time to think about what hero he should pick to counter yours. Another thing worth mentioning is the controls menu. Some people don't know it, but you can actually customize almost any action to any button in Han. For example, if you're tired of hitting Alt and Q or Alt and W and so on to use activated items, you can bind your items to numbers or other buttons. One more out-of-game thing I should mention is PSR. PSR stands for Player Skill Rating, and is a 4-digit number that Han rates you with. Currently, PSR is calculated by winning or losing, but it's subject to undergo changes in the near future, so I won't go into details, because it's probably just going to get changed soon anyways. In any case, the higher your PSR, the better. One last advanced strategy I want to mention is creep blocking. Honestly, creep blocking isn't very important, and you shouldn't worry about it if you're new to the game. But what it is that when the game starts, you physically block your own creeps, slowing them down. This makes it so they meet the enemy creeps closer to your tower, letting you hit level 2 faster. Well, this about wraps up everything I had planned for this tutorial. As a special treat, I'm going to mention one last cool thing you can do in Han, at least right now in beta. If you hold down Control and hit F8, you can bring up the developer console. Type in PreCache all and hit Enter. This will make your game load all the resources in Han right then and there. Note that this causes your game to freeze for a few seconds and will disconnect you if you're in a game lobby. Doing this will cause your load bar to load instantly when the game starts. While this won't do much for people with good computers, players who often are the last to load will find that beating everybody else in less than a second to be really funny. Well, this has been Nigma talking. As usual, feel free to message me in-game, and I hope this helped. This brings me to my next point, map awareness.
Sorry, echt tust.
You're such a goddamn piece of shit.